the silence we all pretend not to hear. People think cruelty begins with action, but it doesn't. Cruelty begins with silence, with the quiet moment when you see something wrong and you wait for someone else to move first. You tell yourself you didn't see clearly. You tell yourself it wasn't your place. You tell yourself someone stronger, braver, more responsible will step in. And every second you wait, your brain loosens the weight of responsibility. Not because you don't care, but because caring alone feels dangerous. Human beings were never designed to act alone. We react to groups, to glances, to invisible signals. We measure safety by watching the stillness of others. If no one moves, we freeze. If everyone freezes, suffering multiplies. And somewhere in that silence, someone cries for help and realizes you're not coming. That's the experiment we're trapped in. Not the cruelty of a violent world, but the terrifying ease of doing nothing when everyone else is doing nothing. If you felt a sting in your chest just now, it means you remember a moment, one you're still trying to forget.
Number 10. The first freeze. He saw the man fall before anyone else did. A soft thud, a gasp, a body folding into the pavement like wet fabric. For a split second, instinct flared, that ancient reflex of move. But then he looked around. Nobody reacted. A woman glanced at her phone. A teenager paused his music but didn't remove his headphones. A businessman took a step forward, then stopped, as if waiting for an invisible permission. The man's breathing grew frantic. His eyes searched the crowd for a single sign of urgency, but the stillness of others acted like a tranquilizer. Fear turned to doubt. Doubt turned to silence. Silence turned to paralysis. He told himself someone must have already called. He told himself the man was probably fine. He told himself stepping forward would draw too much attention. Inside him, the truth thrashed, but the crowd's apathy wrapped around his courage like a cold hand. Human trigger. The more people watching, the less any one person acts. Emotion shift. Fear. Rationalization. Mirror line. You freeze because everyone else froze first.
Number 9. The comfort of blame shifting. There is a strange comfort in believing responsibility belongs to someone else. A stranger, a leader, a professional. Anyone but you. When tragedy unfolds, the brain whispers a convenient lie. If nobody is acting, there must be a reason. He watched as two men discussed quietly among themselves. One shrugged. The other scanned the street, pretending to look for help. Neither moved. Yet their stillness became a signal stronger than a shout. In that moment, blame became fluid, slipping from one person to another, dissolving into the air, until no one felt it land on them. He told himself the man on the ground was exaggerating. He told himself the noise was too chaotic. He told himself the universe would punish him more for interfering than for standing still. Human trigger. Responsibility diffuses when the crowd grows. Emotion shift. Doubt to self-defense. Mirror line. You look for someone to blame so you don't have to look at yourself.
Number 8. The invisible agreement. Crowds form invisible contracts, unspoken rules, silent pacts. He felt the tension like a low hum. Everyone aware. Everyone pretending otherwise. A symphony of false ignorance. People avoided eye contact with the fallen man. Some even changed posture strategically, turning their shoulders just enough to signal, "I didn't see anything." It wasn't cruelty. It was choreography. A woman adjusted her bag and walked faster. A couple whispered something and veered left. 3 teenagers glanced, froze, then laughed awkwardly as if humor could disinfect guilt. Each action reinforced the pact. Do nothing.
trust that doing nothing is safe. He felt the pressure tighten around his chest, as if the group itself held a leash on his will. Human trigger. We follow the behavior of others even when it violates our values. Emotion shift. Awareness to conformity. Mirror line. You followed the script because everyone else is pretending it's the right one.
Number 7, the fear of standing out. No one talks about the courage it takes to break a crowd's illusion, to kneel beside a stranger while dozens of eyes dissect your every move, to risk looking dramatic, foolish, paranoid, overreactive. He imagined it all in an instant. The whispers, the stares, the judgment. Society rewards calmness, not urgency, even when urgency saves lives. He took one step forward. A small one. Barely noticeable. But even that tiny movement felt like defiance, a rebellion against the collective stillness. A man next to him frowned, as if to ask, "Why are you making a scene?" He stepped back immediately. His courage shrank like a flame kissed by wind. His heartbeat thundered not from danger, but from the terror of being the only one who cared. Human trigger. People fear embarrassment more than an action. Emotion shift. Courage to withdrawal. Mirror line. You worry more about being judged than being right.
Number 6, the logic of doing nothing. The human mind is a master of justification. Anything can make sense if fear is loud enough. He replayed the scene in his head, the man falling, the sharp gasp, the slow, fragile breathing. Each detail screamed danger. But logic, twisted by the crowd, whispered, "It's probably nothing. He'll get up. Someone already knows what to do." He scanned the edges of the crowd, searching for a uniform, a stethoscope, someone with authority. He would move if a leader appeared. But leaders rarely appear in moments like this. Most bystanders wait for the same signal he waited for, and so the moment rotted in stillness. He wanted to help, desperately, but the weight of the crowd pressed his instincts flat. Human trigger, you wait for an authority figure to give permission. Emotion shift, responsibility to dependency. Mirror line, you wait for someone to act so you don't have to be first.
Number 5, the dissolving of empathy. Empathy doesn't die all at once. It erodes. He felt it happening inside him, a numbness spreading slow and quiet, like frost crawling across a window. At first, he felt the man's fear as if it were his own. Then, with each passing second, the emotion dulled. Not because he cared less, but because the crowd cared less. Human feelings synchronize, even the feelings we don't want. Someone sighed impatiently. Someone else checked the time. A third whispered, "We're going to be late." Every gesture chipped away at his urgency. The more they waited, the colder the situation felt, like watching suffering through a screen. Human trigger. When others show no empathy, your empathy dims too. Emotion shift. Compassion to emotional numbness. Mirror line. You feel less because everyone else feels nothing.
Number 4, the fear of being wrong. One of the most paralyzing fears is the fear of misjudging a situation, of acting too strongly, of being wrong in public. What if he's fine? What if I'm overreacting? What if I embarrass myself? These doubts hooked themselves into his chest, pulling him backward with invisible threads. He imagined kneeling beside the man only to see him open his eyes and wave him away with irritation. He imagined the crowd rolling their eyes, thinking he was dramatic. The fear of false alarm is stronger than the fear of real crisis. He glanced again. The man's fingers twitched weakly. His breathing was shallow. Everything screamed danger, yet his fear of being wrong froze him in place. Human trigger. The social cost of being wrong often outweighs the moral cost of doing nothing.
Emotion shift. Uncertainty to paralysis. Mirror line. You'd rather ignore suffering than risk looking foolish.
Number 3. The rationalization of abandonment. The brain protects you from guilt by crafting elegant excuses. He's not my responsibility. I have my own problems. Someone else will take care of it. These thoughts slipped into him like warm anesthetic. He looked away, just for a second. But in that second, he felt something inside him detach. A tiny fracture. A distance growing between him and the suffering at his feet. A moral escape hatch. He crossed his arms to shield himself from the sight. He even convinced himself that stepping in might make things worse. Humans are brilliant at rewriting their own motives. We don't lie to others first. We lie to ourselves. Human trigger. You justify inaction to protect your self-image. Emotion shift. Guilt to self-preservation. You abandon others internally long before you walk away. Number 2. The moment you fail yourself. There comes a moment when the world expects nothing from you, and you deliver exactly that. He watched the man struggle for breath. He saw the panic in the man's eyes. He felt the weight of the decision pressing down, heavy and urgent. This was the moment, the threshold, the action line. But he stepped back. Not because he didn't care, not because he was cruel, but because he had trained himself to obey the stillness of others, even when that stillness was deadly. In that moment, he didn't fail the man, he failed himself. The version of himself he always believed he would be when crisis arrived. Human trigger. The moment to act is always the moment you hesitate. Emotion shift. Resolve to collapse. You don't lose your morality, you just don't pick it up when it falls. Number 1. The truth we all avoid. The truth is simple. Painfully simple. Most people are not heroes. Most people freeze. Most people look away. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear, confusion, and the crushing weight of shared inaction. He finally whispered, "Someone help him." But no one answered. Even his own voice sounded foreign. Thin. Barely his. He took one step forward. Too late. Too slow. Too small. The man's breathing faded like a dying light. A life dissolving into the pavement while dozens of hearts beat quietly beside it. In the end, the silence was the loudest thing in the world. Human trigger. Inaction is a collective habit. Emotion shift. Awareness to collapse. The world doesn't break because of evil. It breaks because good people wait. When indifference becomes a memory. When the ambulance finally arrived, nobody remembered who called. Nobody remembered the exact moment the man stopped moving. Nobody remembered who walked away first. But he remembered the silence. It clung to him like smoke. The stillness of the crowd, the weight of his own hesitation, the realization that he had done nothing. People think trauma comes from what you experienced, but sometimes trauma comes from what you failed to do. He replayed the scene again and again, searching for the version of himself who stepped forward without waiting for permission. But that version never appeared. If you felt something tighten in your chest while reading this, it means you have a moment like this too. A moment you carry, a moment you regret, a moment you've buried under layers of excuses. The bystander effect isn't a phenomenon. It's a mirror. A cold one. If you're still here, still breathing, still feeling, it means the mirror didn't win yet. Watch again. Not to feel guilt, but to remember that silence is always a choice.